Today's lesson is multiply any whole number by a fraction using tape diagrams. Let me get my pointer. Our objective to use visual and previous knowledge of multiplication to multiply a whole number by a fraction. The key here is visuals, because the standard says you will be able to use visuals or models in order to represent multiplication of fractions. Essential question: how can I use visuals and not previous knowledge of multiplication to multiply a whole number by a fraction? Second, here where it says Mr. Peterson bought a case, which is 24 boxes of fruit juice. 1/3 of the drinks were grape, 2/3 were cranberry. How many boxes of each flavor did Mr. Peterson buy? So that's the pertinent information in the question. Now, if we look at our tape diagram, the questions remain exactly the same, or we're going to label it. Our top bracket is always what is equal to the whole. In other words, what is being divided up into the fractions. And this, of course, is our 4 boxes of juice. Now the question comes on what are we going to divide our tape into? How many sections? Well, you can see it says 1/3 of the drinks were grape and 2/3 are cranberry. So obviously we're going to split it up into thirds. Now we're going to solve this by initially solving just for 1/3, or the unit fraction, which is any fraction that has a 1 as the numerator. Now where we're going to do this is we're going to go back to our standard division equation, which will give us a division fraction, which will be our answer. Off by solving for the unit of 1, of 1/3. Now we know this is 24, right here, 24 divided by 3. And we write that as a fraction. It becomes 24 divided by 3. So 1/3 of 24 equals 24 thirds, which equals 8. So we know this one unit right here is equal to 24 thirds. That means that these other two units are also equal to 24 thirds, which is an improper fraction, and when we convert it is equal to 8. Now that we know that that 1/3 was 8, we know that that third was grape. So there were 8 grape juices bought. The second part was 2/3 were cranberry. Now that we figured out that each unit was 8, we know that 2/3 was cranberry. So these two right here, using either repeated addition or multiplication 2 times 8, we'd come up with the answer that 16 were cranberry. Now let's try this again with a different question. A lot of times you can come up with a phrase which says, what is 3/5 of 35? In order to define that, you actually have to multiply 3/5 times 35. In the previous lesson, we decided that in order to, if you multiplied a whole number by 1, you would get the same number. If you multiplied a whole number by a number greater than 1, your product would be greater than that original factor. And if you multiplied a number with a number less than 1, it would be less than it. So we can tell that when we multiply 3/5 to 35, our product should be less than 35. Now let's go back to our standard tape diagram. What is 3/5 of 35? Well, obviously we're splitting up 35, so that's what's going to be our. And since we're talking fifths, we know we're going to break our tape diagram into how many sections is 35 being separated. Obviously it's being separated into fifths. The denominator of your fraction will always be what you're going to split your tape into. So now our tape is split into fifths. Now we're going to solve for the unit of 1, and we do this by writing our standard division sentence. 35 divided by 5, rewritten as a fraction, is 35/5. So we know that 1/5 to 35/5. Now we know that 35 is also equal to 7. So we know that each will now be equal to 7. Now that we have all of them filled out, we go back to our original question. and it says, what is 3/5? Well, we can see here that 3/5 is actually equal to 7 plus 7 plus 7. 21. So we could say that 3/5 of 35 equals 21.